All right, scientists, let's talk about types of graphs. In science this year, the two main graphs that we'll talk about are bar graphs, which look like this, and line graphs that look like this. Let's start by comparing them. How are they the same? How are they different? So bar graphs like this one, bar graphs show the amount of something in different categories. For example, on this bar graph, it shows the amount of different elements in the human body. So across the bottom, I can see the categories, which are different elements. And then on the y-axis, I can see the different amounts, like how much of something. For example, it looks like the human body is about 65% oxygen, but I would say this looks like sodium and chlorine is less than 1%. So the bars show you how much or the amounts. That's on the y-axis. And the x-axis over here shows you the category. So if I'm trying to explain the trend in a bar graph, I would use words like most, least, biggest, smallest, highest, or lowest, because those all have to do with answering the question, how much? For example, I could say the trend of this graph is that most students, see how this says most, like the color blue because that's the highest bar. I could also say the highest number of students like the color blue. Then I could say yellow is the color with the smallest amount of students who say it's their favorite. So these are words that talk about amount. And when you're talking about a bar graph or giving a bar graph trend, you might use those words. Now, on the other hand is a line graph. You can tell just by looking at this graph, it's different. There's no bars. Instead, the line goes across the graph from left to right. A line graph shows how the amount of something changes over time. So usually on a line graph, we'll see something like months, days, years, maybe even time of the day. We'll see that on the x-axis because that's time. And then over here, we'll see what is changing. For this graph, it's showing how the temperature changes over the months. So if I were trying to describe the trend for a line graph, I would use different words. I would probably use words like goes up, goes down, which means increases and decreases, or stays the same. For example, in this graph, I see that there's years across the bottom and population on the y-axis. I see by looking at the data or the points that the numbers are going up. So I could say that the trend of this graph is that the population of Earth is going up over the years. I could also say that the population increases over time. If I wanted to say decreases, I don't see anything decreasing or going down here. I could go back to this graph and say, oh, a trend is that the average temperature decreases from September to December. That would be going down or decreasing. Keep in mind, something I see kids getting mixed up on sometimes, you have to read the graph from this side to this side. You read it the same direction as a book. We know that population has gone up over time. You cannot read a graph going from right side to left side. You always need to go from left to right.